I got a phone call from one of the priests in Lower Manhattan near that section saying, you better get down here because we're going to need a lot of priests here because a lot of wounded people and a lot of people have been wounded seriously, and there are people who have died here. So I started to gather the oils and my stole and certain things to go down there. But before I got out of the door of the parish offices, the second plane hit. And everything changed. This was no longer an accident. It was all of a sudden the realization of it was an attack. And that made a great difference to how I felt where I was going. So I got down to a site which was right across from the World Trade Center site in front of the Millennium Hilton Hotel. Because as soon as I got down there, I saw that it was a triage center. Ambulances were picked up and people were being brought out of the north building to that triage center. I was probably there total time, probably about an hour before the next significant thing happened, which is the collapse of the buildings. But it was interesting seeing the people coming out of the building. The presence of the priests meant the world to them, not just Catholics. I know it wasn't just Catholics because many of them came down the stairs, and we're talking about scores and tens of floors they're coming down. They were exhausted, they were crying, they were afraid. And so just standing there with my stole, people came and hugged me. A young lady came out, her feet were all burned up or something like that and everything. So they took surgical gloves, light blue surgical gloves, which were in the ambulance. They put them on her feet. And I remember I was holding her standing and she was walking like a duck. And we started to laugh. I mean, here she was with her feet burned and all the things like that. One of the women who I anointed, Elaine Duck was her name, not Catholic, but we thought she was dead. They took her down on a stretcher, and she was totally covered, and her whole body was burned. But her eyes were open. I remember Elaine, and she was like this. She was rolling around her eyes, and I remember praying over her and praying with her, and the only way she was able to let's say, converse with me was by moving her eyes and things like that. And 6 months later, about 6 months later, Elaine came out of rehab, all scarred, the face was and everything. And she said in one of the interviews in the paper, she says, if it wasn't for the priest praying with me and talking to me, she says, I wouldn't have held on. She says, I just would have let go. And she said, I was at the verge, and she said, and that was a great tribute, because you don't know what you're doing. When you say things and do things, you don't know the effect. You don't know if it's going to be someone that's going to get a laugh because we have duck feet on with the rubber gloves on her feet, and you don't know this woman who could not respond, who also was not Catholic, who was saying those words and praying the Our Father and things like that. I didn't know she was not Catholic, but how much it meant to her. 9/11 is something which I don't, it doesn't bother me that much, I don't think, except emotionally, as you see when I talk about certain times and certain places. But I was very glad to be down there. And I thought to myself, the real key, or the decision I had to make, be down there or not down there, was on the way down. When I walked out that door, the second building was hit by a plane, no longer an accident. And then I tried to go down, and I mean, literally thousands of people pushing the other way. And I said to myself, where am I going? Why am I going this way and everyone else is coming the other way? But I made the decision, and I really felt that I was very happy to do that, because in the long run, I know I was a comfort to a lot of people, and I know I was able to give them both spiritual and human comfort right there, and to give the sacraments, which is why a priest is ordained to do that.